And we're back with another WAAAGH Wednesday, where we discuss the rise of the green tide, where we check the stats and the facts, going over the top performing orc list into detail with their matchups, who they win against, bit of details into those hard matchups, and some of my own interpretation of what is to come. So this is post Dataslate, everybody. Every Wednesday we do these. On Fridays we do our normal streams, but this week, we're not going to look at the stats yet. There's not really enough numbers on the table yet with the post data slate. So instead, what I'm going to do is look at a little bit extra list, but most of them are going to be at this Rose, this GT that we're going to be looking at to start with Lucas Trollers. It's called the Great Games. What I was going to say is this is one of the GTs that's actually using the new data slate. And this is only about 34 players, which, you know, the minimum I believe is about 28 for a GT or 30, something like that. So it is a small event, but because of the changes, there's been so many hard hitters coming out to any event that you go to. Everybody loves to jump on the rules right away. And you can see right off the bat, we have Lucas Troller is the player we're going to be looking at this event who did best. Top 5. He used to be, I believe he went for Team America this last year or something like that. So Lucas Troller is a great player. We've discussed him before. But also, we have Tarzan, which we've discussed Tarzan before, performance at 9, and then Zach at 11. And the reason I'm going to bring them up is because it reflects directly into who got first place at this event. And I want to discuss that. So, but first what we'll do is we'll look at Lucas Troller's list. Like always, we're going to see what it looks like, kind of the archetype composition. We've seen him before, and I believe he was actually the innovator of running max trucks and everything like that. So I'm pretty sure he didn't run that, but let's see what he came up with. And of course, the title of his list is "Please Let the Green Tide Detachment Be Good. I'm tired of playing with 40 models." Whoa, that's a proper request from a war boss, because I feel the same way. I mean, I'm okay with this detachment for the most part, but guys, we all want to play a green tide. Why else would we be orc players? And speed bugs and mech quads, of course. We like them all. So we have a Death Killer War Trike, Super Cyborg Body. Yes, love to see it. Gazgul Thraka, I've been on that boat for months. I'm glad that everything's starting to reflect that now. Captain Badrook, of course. Mozrog. So people always question, can I run Moz and Gaz at the same time? Last RTT I went to, I did this. I felt great success. And the Death Killer War Trike is another tech piece you could fit in there because he's 95 points, guys. It's outrageous how durable he is. Then we have 2 War Bosses, didn't go up at any points. And then, of course, War Boss in Mega Armor, again, making his return. So a lot of people are up and down about him. I really like to see him. I personally don't run him on my competitive list at the moment. And I'm not sure how long, you know, Mega Armor is going to stick around in this new meta. I don't think that long, but we'll see. I mean, I'm the one who, was in for him last, Data Slate. And now I'm like, I'm not sure. And I have reasons for that. So we have Beast Snagga Boys, 1 unit. 4 trucks, I think the sweet spot right now, if you're not going to run wagons and that archetype, 4 trucks on every orc list. If you're not running any wagons, still keep 3 to 4 trucks on your list. It'll be very, very useful. We got flash kits, 1 unit of Gretchen. I'm the kind of person that loves to run 2 units of Gretchen bare minimum. That's me. But hey, everybody's different with how they like the wall, right? But then we have Meganobz, another unit of Meganobz. This is Gaz's unit. He keeps it up to 3-man. I'm okay with just 2, but 3 feels way better. You can absorb grenades. You can take some firepower. You don't have to take the chances on Makari at any point, more likely. So yeah, it becomes great. Then you have the 5-man unit for the War Boss. And like I always like to point out, you want the twin kill saws on that because they service as a different tool than, let's say, the power clawed knobs. They have more AP, higher strength. They're re-rolling the wounds. So yes, it's less volume, but you're more reliably putting into wounds into these high armor save models that you might be going into. And it's only 40 points more for different kind of durable profile. So then 2 units of 5-man scalpel knobs, right? So each get a war boss. They can all fit in 1 truck, jump out at different times or at different activations, jump into different units. So I'm somebody that really likes to have a big, 10-man unit to get in there. I really like the CP investment when I do that, but it is harder to, manage. So, and also to trade. Then we have 2 units of Storm Boys just to top off that scoring. So got Meganobz, Flash Kits, 4 trucks, Gaz, and 1 unit of Beast Snagga Boys that are just running around on their own in mind. We should keep that in mind. That 1 unit of Beast Snagga Boys is just straight OC. He fits in the truck. So I'm sure if he had the points, he would have just put, a normal boy unit in the truck if he had to. But yeah, he did great there. So let's look at his list real quick. Boom. So we have, his first matchup. And his first matchup, let me pull up a little bit of my stuff, guys. We have the Vanguard Adeptus Astartes Spearhead. He has a Apothecary Biologist Captain in Gravis armor. I think this guy's slept on all the time because he can reduce damage and he gets the blaze driven deep and he can fight really well. So he's actually quite durable for a Space Marine, relatively, right? He's a guy who can run in and kill multiple Squighogs by himself if he rolls good enough and you roll bad. So Librarian and Phobos armor, and then Lieutenant and combi weapon. You know, Lieutenant is for kind of he gives I think he gives like a reroll wound. He picks an objective, and then the Phobos is because he's running the Vanguard Spearhead detachment. He has the Gravis Marines that are running the Gravstorm the Frag Storm grenade launchers and the autocannon gauntlets. Two units of Eliminators, this is snipers. 2 units of Inceptors, even with the points increase, because they're just great utility regardless. Incursors, 2 units of Infiltrators, a Brutalis Dreadnought, 2 Gladiator Lancers, and a Repulsor Executioner. Right off the bat, you already know as an Orc player, you're going for, even with their activations of, hey, I can activate and move out of sequence and try to get away from you. As an Orc player, you know they're going to have to come interact with you to play the mission at some point. You are going to be able to trade in with them. You do have the ability to stage and be oddly durable with Maz and Def Killer War Trikes. And when it is that go time, like the Dreadnought gets in range, if the aggressor do get into range, that you charge them, pop Gaz's ability, drop the wall, be in Makari's range, but I mean, when you're popping Makari's ability on the wall, and you just run over whatever side of the flank that he chose to commit to. So it becomes great. It's not, you know, this Vanguard is not that it's not strong. It's very, very, very strong. But any Space Marine player would tell you it's very hard to pilot. And Orcs are one of those armies that, oh, you made a mistake. There you go. I jumped on you. You know, touching different units. I'm killing you. It's continuous momentum. And Lucas Troller would have just caught that mistake right away and just ran him over. Then we have Thousand Suns. So it's funny because Lucas, I know he's had a bunch of reps into these as I've seen him play into them. This is one of the first editions, games of the edition I've seen him play into was T-Suns on War Games Live. Orcs have always had a winnable matchup into T-Suns for the most part. The Flamers can be a problem. The assured damage, Magnus sometimes being hard to kill on his own. But all in all, the archetype for T-Suns hasn't changed very much, and Orcs has, and it's only been a better matchup for us. So even with all these small units of Rubric Marines, and these guys actually brought Infernal Bolters instead of the Flamers. There's only one unit of Flamers. It looks like the big one. And he has Zangors. He still has a unit like Vortex Beast. He brought some Thousand Sun Cultists and 2 Brigands, even with the point increase. But like we just said, with changes and the points increase, he's gotten less allies that he wants to use for scoring, and now it's just for killing. So I understand that the T-Sun can be good in the right player's hand, but when it comes to 2 equally skilled players, we have the advantage in that matchup. So Lucas scored a straight 100 on him. Then we have Orc on Orc greenskin matchup. So this was against Danny McClure. So of course the War Boss on War Boss battle here. He also brought Gaz and Miles as well. So we see another good performing Orc player that chose to do both. You know, I like to just, not that I'm saying you guys have to do what I do or do what I say, but this is something that we talked about here before, and this is how I personally like to run it. But I'm somebody that's actually looking to possibly drop Maz. You know, I'm experimenting with dropping Maz, see if I can fit on the list. We have a Nabmas Magic Squig, which is how I like Edwapa's Kill Chopper, my favorite way to run it. But I'm all ears to hear people run them with the Beatboss and Squigosaur now after the changes. We have a War Boss and then a War Boss on Warbike. And what's interesting to me is that he doesn't have Super Cyborg Body, but he still chose to run them. So we have 2 trucks, 1 unit of Gretchen, Meganobz with Twin Kill Saws, Meganobz with Power Claws, big unit of Knobs, big unit of Squigs, and then 3 units of Storm Boys and 3 units of War Bikers. So he actually has good chaff running around the field, a couple missile units to run in there and crump. Only 2 trucks, and I'm failing to see the War Bikes, investment. I guess you can get an auto charge off and everything, but the War Boss himself doesn't fight enough. He doesn't get enough attacks. That's my own little critique, but I'm sure he did fine. Lucas was his lowest scoring win, actually, because Orc on Orc matchups can go crazy. It can go either way. It takes good maneuverability and understanding the fight phase to overcome another Orc player reliably. So good job there, Lucas. Then in the 4th matchup, we have Alex. So with Alex was actually Lucas's only loss, and like we were discussing on Orc's new difficult matchups when we were talking about the Dataslate, Knights is one of those top 5, matchups that I discussed is going to go hard. Chaos Knights specifically, excuse me, when they're running the War Dog type spam, right? So we have the Stalker, 3 Brigands, 3 Huntsmen, and then just straight Carnivores. Carnivores because they're cheaper. You can bring more of them. They offset the cost of those Brigands, keep the Brigands in the backfield. They can still pop enough of your trucks, still put enough firepower in there. And it's not that we can't kill these things. It's just that behind a good Knight, Knight player, he knows when to invest them, when to sacrifice one and get a bad trade from you. He understands that possibly you as an Orc player don't have enough, small skirmishing units that are strong enough to kill these war dogs reliably. So then you're running into problems there where these guys become a problem when the player understands not to let one orc unit missile through multiple of these guys, right? If you put them too close together, hey, my beast snagger boy can grab you here, my squigs can tag off and tag this, but a proper player knows how to use his strats to move through terrain, right? They can actually jump straight through terrain like Kool-Aid Man Titans, right? So that's very problematic for orcs that usually want to try to move block enemies and reliably be like, you're not going to get to me and get the initiative. They're fast enough to sometimes get the initiative, have just enough firepower to pop transports binding if they can, and enough OC to out OC you, especially once they kind of take you out with all their small arms fire. So it'll be difficult there, and I can totally see why. This is one of those things that if it's two players that are both very skilled, and sometimes the mission, matters as well, they have the advantage in that matchup. So Lucas did drop that game, but like I said, going forward, of course, we can always overcome our predators, but when you're thinking about two possibly equal skill players or the matchup of the mission, we sometimes lose we have hard matchups in that, and that was how we would lose. His last matchup goes into one of our other difficult matchups, which is Leagues of Voltan, but I'm very, very, favored to believe that the Death Killer Wartrike played a good role in this. So let's talk about what the list was. We have an Einhitter Champion, another Einhitter Champion. So kind of light on the characters, in my opinion, for Leagues of Voltan. Two units of Arthkin Warriors. 1, 2, 3, 4 Sagittar. So even with the points increase, he just found other ways to cut and still get 4 guys on the list, or 4 of those transports on the list. We have 2 Berserkers. I think in Orcs matchup, that's actually they actually do good in Orcs for the most part. In other matchups, they're pretty trash. Sometimes they get shut off the table, but for Orcs, it's like, hey, they can be a good countercharging unit, so be aware of them. And then he still, with the point increases and whatever, what we consider will be a debuff, he still brought 2 units of Big Brick Einhid Huskar, which are their version of Terminators. They have the same loadouts as each other. They have the grenade. I should check that. Okay, they have different. There's a concussion gauntlet. Oh, they have all the same shit. All right, sorry. Okay, I just make sure they're the same weapons. And then 2, big units of Pioneers. Interesting that you bought big unit of Pioneers. It looks like, so interesting on that. But this kind of unit looks as kind of elite, other than the Sagittars kind of move up the field earlier and take up the space. It is a difficult matchup when you're a player who, isn't used to this as well. You have to understand that Leagues of Voltan are not a common faction you're going to run into. There could be that one time you run into them, you're not familiar with their rules. So it's sometimes still to have a basic understanding of what these armies done. So they want to clog you up as an Orc player with the Sagittar. If you have something like a Death Killer Wartrike, or let's say Mandos, or something that can actually gunk up the table earlier, cause investment from their shooting, Leagues of Voltan don't like that, because they're actually reliable killing units are these Hearthguard, and they're not going to be on the table turn 1. So if you get that Death Killer Wartrike up the field right away, maybe plant yourself on an objective and tell them, hey, you have to shoot me. Now they're just hoping that their Sagittars roll hot enough to kill something like the Death Killer Wartrike, and it gives you time to position with your other 4 transports, fill up the field, not allow the reserves to come in where you want them to, or where they want them to, and that could be the advantage. So I'm not sure if that's what happened, but if that's my prediction of what I would think would favor this matchup to help Lucas win it. If he didn't win that way, might have just been the mission or him being a better player. They don't like when you play table corners deployment. So yeah, so great job, Lucas Troller. Whoa, for still doing great for the Orcs with the changes. But what I did want to talk about here was Mr. Dan Tanner Herbert. And the reason I wanted to talk about him is because he ended up going into 2 different Orc players. So we have Tarzan, who had a Gargantuan Squigoth on his list, and then Zach, who was running Squighog Boys on his list, bricks. But what I want to show you is what the new Death Guard meta is looking like. It's looking like Evil Morty. No, I'm just kidding. What it is we were on the fence about it. In my prediction, or when I talked about the Dataslate, I mentioned Morty. He would be interesting for them for several reasons, and that they were going to run what we were talking about, the Death Shroud Terminators. Most likely they were going to tap into that as they got debuffs. What I didn't see coming, and most people didn't as well, unless you're very familiar with them, where their Terminator Sorcerers are a big key to that strength. Mortarion, giving an aura of I can turn off your debuffs is very important. Especially, let's say, if they're running crawlers or with the little bit of shooting they have, it would help with that. But in this list, you can see that Morty was most likely walking up and just bullying somebody, because he's not trying to sit back and actually babysit any guns. They brought a couple brigands here for that, but let's break down what the list actually entails, because looking at it in this weird format, it looks ugly and weird. And what it is Mortarion is Mortarion, but what you have here is Typhus plus these 2 Terminator sorcerers are very, very key and very, very, very hard counters for Orks, not intentionally, but what they are, because he has three-man units of Death Shroud. So not only are they cheap, but they get a plethora of different abilities based off these 2 characters. So Typhus not only can project mortal wounds to enemies, I believe in the fight phase, but he also has a built-in fight first. So those Death Shroud are going to fight first and be able to mess you up. Not to mention that he's very cheap for, he believes like 80 points. Another thing I want to mention, and he does psychic powers. Another thing I want to mention is the Death Shroud Terminators being able to actually reduce damage on a 2-up in the fight phase. And they also have a once per game ability to increase their, psychic might, we'll say, from their shooting to go from strength 6 -1 to 1 damage to end up going to strength 8 -2, 3 damage. And it's a 2d6 psychic shooting. So all of a sudden they're getting a volume of shooting they can get from their psychic that's up to 3 damage, burn through your knobs if they have to, burn through your Meganobz possibly, burn through your Squigosaur boys possibly. So it becomes weird where they can even shoot out at you. And the Death Shrouds have flamers that are anti-infantry as well. So that's that. Not to mention the Foul Blightspawn and the Blige Putrefier. So this is the combo for the fighting first, throwing grenades, lethal, all encompassed in one if you could fit those on those lists, which they did because they have 2 units of 10 Plague Marines in the Rhinos. So that means these 2 units of Plague Marines, each one are getting in a Rhino. They have these characters built in because you can have 2 characters in each one, and they're very cheap. So they have a 3 fight first capabilities here, not to mention that I can reduce damage and have you run into me, not to mention Morty himself on the list. So they have mortal wound potential, everything like that. So he actually took down, when we look at him, he took down Tarzan right here and Zach immediately in the first 2 rounds. So, I'm not saying that he could have beat Lucas, but it would have been interesting to see them face off or to hear from either one of them. So shout out to Lucas Troller, because I just want to point out that he's been constantly doing good. If you see this, like to see on Discord or, us chat one time, it'd be nice. So after that, I'm going to check chat real quick, but we'll go into the Black Hole Wars GT. So let me see some of what you got to say, because I wanted to get into it today. I know a lot of you guys might be new here or want to know what's going on. So I just wanted to get into it today and not really get too happy. But here we are with the from Wicked Joe. Let's go. Of course, Redmond, Wednesday night, clump, pile in, boys and wall. That's what I'm talking about. So we go, and we have ECOP 5 gifted memberships. Let's go. Whoa, let's go, you guys. Make sure that you guys collected those. If you can, make sure you get them for, accept the gifts. Go ahead and go throw some boy badges in the chat. Go ahead and throw some squigs in the chat. Let's get some more bosses for ECOP. And because he's always supporting, always being very encouraging, we greatly appreciate you. He's very generous. So shout out to you. Then we have Sandor with the wicked. Oh, sorry. Sandor Horkyak with a YouTube membership. Whoa, let's go. So let's see. He has a question. To use, here we go. Do you need to start at the movement phase? Meaning if the movement phase starts and I'm starting to move units, I can only use the strat. Yeah, you're right. And I believe, let me make sure I messed that one up, because I'm actually going to do a video on orc stratagems. So it's actually important that you bring this up, because I think there's a lot of stratagems and other ability, like built into the game stratagems, that people don't use or need to use them more likely. So you were asking about, here we go. Yeah, here we go. Let me share. Yeah, it's a starting movement phase. I want to make sure it was an old strat, but yeah, exactly. It's at the starting movement phase. It moves soon. People mess it up all the time. Oh shoot, you're already online. Yeah, let's go. Sorry. He goes, all the gifts are here, learning from the great warlords. Yeah, we have to. That's what this is for, you guys. Don't copy these people, but get an idea of what the archetypes are going forward. Yo, I dished my Snick Rot for more boys. That's what I'm talking about. That's okay. I like my boys and I like Snick Rot, so both. So let's take a look at this great orc player. We have Francisco Ventura. So I know you guys are like, wait, he went 3-2. So what? There's a new Dataslate where we're taking a look at everything he went into, and actually very important, because he threw some of my estimations, guesstimations on their head with what he actually ended up going to, because he did lose, what I expect him to lose, but he also overcame some of our hard matchups. So let's look at his list. So we have 2 war bosses, then 2 war bosses in mega armor, followed by a war boss on bike with a super cyborg body, Captain Bagrook, and Mozrog Scragbag. So excellent right there. We a lot of things we like to see. We like to see multiple war bosses. I personally have said war boss and mega armor isn't as trash as people always say. Playable, but there's things I prefer. Warboss on bike, I'm much more in favor of the Death Killer Warcheck, but I can understand. Way smaller base. Maybe sometimes you need those 5 extra points. Still has miles set of gas. One big unit of flash kits, but then he also brought a 5-man unit of flash kits and another 5-man units of flash kits. So say hello to, and then he brought 2, 10, 11 man units of Gretchen. I'm actually leaning more into that too, into some of these new shenanigans that we're seeing in the data slate. Models wanting to move up the field earlier, jump into your backfield, all those different annoying shenanigans. Hey, let's just put more Grots on the field, put more LC on the field. Let's take up more board control. Then we have those 2 units of Meganobz for those war bosses. Both have twin kill saws. I'm a fan of that. I'm a fan of that. And you know that. 2 units of war bosses. Have knobs for those war bosses, and they have power claws. Then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 trucks. So you went for 5 trucks on this. All the Meganobz and the war bosses get a truck. Mind you, these 5-man units of flash kits are now considered SWAT teams because you're taking 1 truck, putting a 5-man units of knobs and the war boss in one, and then taking the 5-man units of flash kits and putting them in one. So right there, you're getting the firepower from the flash kits. You get the chaff clearing. If you don't want to invest your knobs into something, hey, they threw some Hormagons, big brick or something stupid that's crappy armor save. Hey, throw these guys out. Each flash kit gets 4 punches built in. Run in there, start crumping. I know that it's not very reliable, but you could pop MO run, get their normal shots off. It's always hit or miss. I'm not going to say I would suggest it, but it is very, very fun to run that iteration of SWAT team. So shout out to you for running the SWAT team. I appreciate it, you war boss. And something I also thought was a little interesting here is you don't see any other enhancements, So let's look into him. I would say it is a little bit off the wall because he brought the flash kit meta, but he did get some interesting wins here. So going into his first matchup, which even though I said he got some interesting wins, this was actually a first round loss, and it was to the Knights, Chaos Knights again. So let's just see if it's the same exact thing. It's 5, 6 brigands instead, and then just a couple carnivores. 3 units of Nurglings, and then a pink horrors unit. So I'd like to see if he ended up going first, putting the Nurglings all up in the way and playing off that, what the mission was, the terrain. And he did bring 1 big old Night Rampager, which if you don't have some, let's say a big unit Squigosaur boys to just straight punch out that unit, this guy can just end up tearing a hole through an entire orc line. Very hard to stop. He can decide to do a 6-up feel no pain, then get the 2-up armor save. So I'm not from what we were looking at here on Francisco's list is he doesn't have something that's reliable, one shot, one of those big rampagers, and from there all those brigands help destroy the trucks, pick up the knobs, and the flash kits don't do anything. So I can understand why I lose that. We already know that that's a difficult orc matchup, and that's just a part of it when you're running that. So it's all good because going into his second matchup, we have Space Marine Black Templars. So Black Templars got an increase. Let's look at what some of these players are running. We have Chaplain Grimaldus, and a High Marshal Helbricht. A Primaris Crusader squad. Okay, so we think a lot of people are thinking that they're going to start trying to run the Black Tide, so we'll see what's up with that. Another Primaris Crusader squad, a Rhino, a Ballistic Dread, Infiltrator squad, a Land Raider, Sword Brethren, Redemptor Dreadnought, Scout. Okay. So something we're noticing here is no one scepters, little bit less firepower than used to, not as many transports with only just one, it is just only 1 Land Raider. Yeah, we don't see a bunch of rhinos built in, these different kind of mobile disembarking transports that are trying to take all over the board. Only 3 characters, so they did lose out on a little thing here and there. And I like to say that orcs have a great job in just picking up these Primaris Crusader squads for the most part that other armies don't have enough attacks into. We love to have straight damage too. So that's something in there. The Ballistic Dread doesn't get great return on investment for orcs. It's chaff here, clearing isn't great and such. So I really like to see that we ended up taking down Black Templars again. He took them down with that awesome SWAT team combos where the Sword Brethren can end up getting traded out for those knob squads. And then other, something like these Primaris squads wouldn't do great into Meganobz squads, with the ability to actually bounce some of that and some of the small arms fire. So great job there. I really like to see that. Really love to see them take down the Black Templars. Always good for crumping them beakies, right? Then we have his third matchup, which is Tomas, which actually Adeptus Custodi. So we were talking about Banana Boys, right? Banana Boys, everybody that has any sense of where the rules are at, what's going on with Orks, some of our hard matchups. We all know that Golden Boys are very, very difficult for us. At the general baseline level, let's say that me and you are equally skilled players and you come to the table with Custodes, and most of the time we'll know that you have an innate advantage based off what the rules are and what your strengths are. So we have Wicked Joe with 5 gifted wall membership. Whoa, let's go. So if any of you boys walking around here looking like some pink Umis, that's on you. So looking like a pink Umi. So go ahead and collect those. Throw some more bosses in the chat, some Gazes in the chat. So, you know, we can do some Zogrot if you want. Some of you guys are some Grot lovers for Wicked Joe right there, right? So shout out to Wicked Joe. Very generous of you. I appreciate it. You get. So collect those, you guys, because we don't need to see all the pink Umis around here. Join the Green Tide. So we have the Blade Champion and Trajan Valores. Only 2 very, very character light. 1, 2, 3 units of Guardians. Cannot be slept on. Prosecutor. A brick of Alora's Custodians. A unit of Wardens. Another unit of Wardens. Caladius Assassin. And a Vindicare Assassin. I think Custodians really benefit from getting additional characters in their unit. You know, you can put some certain Inquisitors on there, like Draxus. You can put more characters in here that give them more abilities to, they get to benefit from abilities from that, but so do the characters from theirs, right? So the Guardians being able to double shoot, they're rerolling when you're on the objective. You know, you got the Alora's Custodians that if you have a leader unit in the unit that they're targeting, their grenade launchers get to reroll. This is something us Orc players hate to see. They can get free strats if they have more captains in their list. Then with the Wardens, they get feel no pains, and then you have the ability to reduce damage. One thing that I want to mention here as an Orc player to keep in mind when you go into the Custodian matchup is, you know, read the wording of these strats, which is why I'm going to go over the stratagems, is when you activate the Fight and Death, the Custodian player cannot reduce your damage because it's an activation by model, I believe, when I go over it again, when I will go over it to be sure, and the Custodian strat is when the unit's being activated, right? So when you fight on death and you're going for that direct trade when someone decides to fight you on death, understand that you're not still get the damage too. So you really want to get that feel no pain to pop on with your flash gets or something in a different activation. But I would be a little happy as a player to not see one grav tanks. Even, you know, one grav tank could be problematic because they can systematically dissect those staging units that you want to kill. Or if you have a battle wagon, they can put really threatening into that sometimes. It holds their backfield a little bit easier for not too much of an investment. And we're one of the few armies that don't threaten it too much. Maybe flash gets could, if it doesn't have, you know, if it's in range. So that's just one thing to keep in mind is they do lack some of the tools that would make them a harder matchup, but that doesn't mean you as a player shouldn't understand what you can use or what their weaknesses are. So if you don't see Caladius grav tank, understand your transports are a little bit safer. If you don't see a bunch of characters, understand you're not getting as many free strats. That's a bit better for you as a player as well. But you are seeing there are a good amount of units on this list. So be wary of that. And you're not seeing any of the Venatari for the double ingressing, right? Just beware that the Terminators can actually teleport around the field. So I would really like to see what their mission was. He ended up getting a win here in his 3rd game. So great job going into one of our hard matchups. So, you know, this is really you as an Orc player. I can go over this custo list piece by piece and tell you what I would do and everything, but every mission is different. Your list is going to be different. Just be aware of the tools that they do not have that give them the edge over us even more. That would be one of them. If you don't see a Terminator, you know, captain in this Alara's Terminator squad, that's important. If you don't see Caladius grav tanks, that's important for your transports to know your transports are actually more durable than the Custodian players want to acknowledge. Those are the kind of, and understanding when fighting in death actually keeps your damage. Let's say that you didn't know that and you fought on death and they reduced damage thinking they could do that. You could just lose the game just from that, right? Because then now you're not trading your knobs. But his 4th game, he went into Custodes again. So now you can see he has a shield captain in this. You know, actually he's the one who gives a free strat, excuse me. And then we have the Blade Champion again and Trajan Valores. This is the kind of triple combo you should see. You should expect to see, excuse me. 2 units of Guardians right here with with this unit has the shield, and this unit has what, 1 dude with the shield and a Vexel, of course. And then this one is just all spears. A prosecutor unit. On this one, though, what I noticed is I was enjoying their list, and then boom, they broke down into the Terminator squads into 2 small units. That might be good just to have more units, but into Orcs, you really like to see that because you hate to see them get their grenade launchers, drop down, reroll all the wounds into your nice mobs, and get blast, and it just hurts. So really like to see that as an Orc player. And again, you do not see the Caladius grav tanks. So we're having an issue here where the Custodian player is actually not going to be able to disembark you from your transports. Great for us for staging. great for us to get the initiative and actually hit them hard when we do hit them hard. And once we've been, acquired enough CP to fight on death and unbridled carnage here and everything like that. Because when it's go time, you need to make sure you have the CP there, right? Which is why I'm also looking for tactical instead of fixed at the moment, even though I was practicing fixed, because we were going to need more CP when we're dealing with custode. So again, he put up actually even more points into this, 96, maybe the mission, maybe because they don't have Terminator Brick. I don't know. Then into his last matchup. So great job, by the way. Beating one of our hard matchups is great. When I'm giving you the all in grab tank, I'm not making an excuse. I'm saying that's what you're really worried about. When you're not worried about those, we get more initiative and ability to win. So great, very great job by getting double custodes wins. But here we have the Necron, Hypercrypt Legion, the annoying, multiple activation movement shenanigan army. A lot of you guys probably already know what they do. We can talk about it. They're going to be around for a while, so it is familiar to get, important to get familiar with their rules. They're picking up units. They're coming within 3 inches. So in all, because I think, Tactical Tortoise and other people have covered this list. What's funny about this list is it brings a giant heavy construct that's 540 points. Because it has a strat, it's a part of this detachment, it can drop within 3 inches, which means it's very hard to screen out. This thing will automatically destroy Ork transports by any size and measurement. These guys also have multiple Locust Destroyers that can come in and redeploy around the field. Then they have the Silent King himself and the Nightbringer. So by the time you're getting off on the Nightbringer and maybe trying to deal with the Silent King, or maybe you're trying to close the distance on this big, hilarious, heavy construct, you're getting shot up. And even then, right, I would actually say what happens with this Necron detachment is not that Ork players can't beat it. It's, again, when you guys get to the same equally skilled player on player, what I'm end up seeing is we get close to the end of the game and they pull out the win very, very nonchalantly with their extra activations and win at the end of the game by turn 4, like 4 or 5, pretty much, usually 5. So you can see he actually has an 87-point win, and the Necron player had a 92-point win. So he lost by 5 points. That's, hey, I took the objective at the end of the game, because as a Necron player, he can now pick the, initiative for his shooting, slowly dissect and kill your transports, kill your scoring units. That's what a smart Necron player is going to do. He's going to understand that if I waste my killing capability into his durable killing units, I might fail here. What I should do is dissect his army, which is what Necron players at the high level will do. That's what I have to deal with a lot, where he's like, I'm actually going to waste all my activation killing those grots. I'm going to waste my activation killing those trucks, because by the end of the game, I now don't have enough, units to actually hold that last primary and end up losing there, or score that last secondary. That's really what they actually go for as a Necron player. So you might feel good going into it for long times. Just know that's actually how at the top tables, those Necron players are getting their wins. That's how they're looking to pull the games off. And so, be wary of that when the game's going down to the wire. Hey, I might need to have something in my back pocket to continue going. So great job by Francisco, regardless, getting 7th place at a GT. Much love. Very fun to see a SWAT team in action. So, whoa, it's the rise of the Green Tide OS. So, for the last event, let me get rid of some of these lists I was looking at. I left them up. Let me get rid of this too. The last one we'll go into is the Capticon GT. So, this is James Watkins. Sorry, excuse me, buddy. Let me take a look at chat real quick before I move on. He says, if you want your Meganobz to trade or rapid ingress, go Warboss and Mega Armor. Yeah. If you want your Meganobz to hold, go points for a Big Mag. Exactly. Great way to summarize it, especially if you want great AP, go for the Kill Saws. If you want just more attacks to fish for Dev Wounds, go for the Power Claws, right? We all have different things. I'm a fan of or if you want those little shots, right? Mathematically, though, they're not great. Oh, yeah. Shout out to Wicked Joe. Yeah, for giving you guys memberships. Great job collecting those. Great job for you guys using the dreads, using the rise of the Green Tide. Yeah, using the badges. Make sure you guys get in there, interact, show what's up, because Orks are still looking good. We still do have some tough matchups, which we'll summarize with talking about what I think about that. But let's look at this list from James. So we have a Beatboss on Squigosaur, Captain Badra, Mozrog Scragbag, Warboss with Follow Me Lads, Warboss with Kind of Brutal. Interesting that he chose to run Moz and Beatboss and Squigosaur. We've seen that kind of falling out of favor. Yet he brought it back, and he has double knobs. So Warbosses. Let's see how many knobs he has. He has 3 trucks, what I consider the minimum I'd like to bring, unless I have wagons and stuff. 1 unit of flash kits, only 1 Gretchen unit again. So the guys like me thinking, man, I might need 30 Gretchen. And you've seen a couple guys here only bringing 10. So do what sits you best. I just know what I favor, right? 2 big bricks of knobs, which is again where someone who disagrees with me on grots, yeah, we agree on knobs. I really love to see big units of knobs. We see these custos units, we see these Catans, we see these all these different powered armor armies that we want to have these big units of knobs to use Unbridled Carnage, to use Fight on Death. They become more versatile to be able to hit different units if they're a big unit like this. And they love Gas's lethal ability, so they can even punch up into stuff that has higher toughness than their strength. So knobs are very versatile. Two 10-man units, very unquestionable to be on a list. Very popular. This is one of the archetypes we see a lot of the time. I've written lists like this, haven't run 20 knobs of power calls yet, but I wouldn't be objected to it. And then here he brought 3x3 Squigosaur boys. Great way to kind of keep their points value there because they're still a good trade skirmish. I just wonder, let's say into something like a Screamer Killer for Tyranids, right? It's about 145, I believe. Squigosaur boys hold up in that in 3-man units? No, usually not. Then we have 2 units of Storm boys, right? Love my Storm boys. So let's look into what some of the matchups he went into. Mr. James. So his first matchup, he goes Necrons. And this is, again, the Hypercrypt Legion. But he actually won this. So we have the Chronomancer, Hexmark Destroyers, Plasmancer, Catan with a Nightbringer, Void Dragon, Luminar Suzeras, Emotech Stormlord. If I can summarize this up, I believe the Chronomancer allows them to shoot and move. Hexmark Destroyer is a lone op that can like deep strike and shoot you and snipe characters, I believe. Plasmancer is a guy who does morale checks, I believe, and makes you like might leadership. And then multiple Catans, one's for anti-vehicle, the other one's a very small model that kills Crumbs pretty hard. Luminar Suzeras is a oddly durable, 4-up feel no pain, like toughness 8 character. You do want to put at least like 6 knobs in the war boss on him, or at least 5 knobs in the war boss on the wall it takes to kill him. Then we have 3 units of Immortals with 2 with Gallbladder, 1 Tesla Carbine, right? So they're looking to get higher to critical, I think it's lethal or critical 5, sorry, for their sustained, double sustains. We have 2 units of swarms, a lone destroyer, and then another heavy destroyer. So this is because these guys are going to look for those individual units to kill that they can that you're using for scoring or themselves are using for scoring. They're very annoying, and they can drop their own backfield. So it's really stupid. All of a sudden, the destroyers in their backfield and it's scoring points all the time. You're like, dang, what am I going to use to kill that oddly tough T6 multi-1 monolith in a heal? And then we have the Monolith. So we know the Monolith can pick up, move Immortals around. He can deep strike within 3 inches, and then bring Immortals with him and do all these funny shenanigan things. So, and then they can shoot and then move, I believe. So this is something you need to be aware of. This is a popular list and nothing for us to not be aware of. But again, don't be scared of it, because if the Necron player messes up, maybe he's not familiar with how hard Orks crump, you're destroying the Monolith, you're running him over. It really takes a smart Necron player that's familiar with Orks to actually move correctly and not end up getting run over and killed, because they could throw away Catans not understanding that we're one of the few armies that can kill 2 Catans in 1 activation, like in 1 phase. So great job there by James. And then to the second matchup, keep in mind, I don't know what happened, but only 53-point win, so that's weird, but let's look at it anyways. Timeout happens. And we have Chaos Space Marines. And this right here is also why I advise on all levels, and people, even if you're a casual, lovely individual, play with a chess clock, for just so you can, because it helps you get better to your own time management when you're playing, even if you don't do it at the event. Even in my casual games, I kind of do that because you don't want this to happen, ideally, because you can end up coming out on the wrong side of that. If you could be like, oh, I'm about to win if the game goes on and the game's over because the guy shot too long, right? So we have Abaddon Deployer, Chaos Lord, Cultist Mob, Legionnaires, Rhino, all Mark and Nurgle, Chaos Bikers, a Terminator Squad, Big Brick, Chosen, Forge Fiend, and Possessed with 1 unit of Nurgling. So the Chaos Lords with the Chosen, Terminators with Abaddon, Rhinos getting filled up. I've actually played into something like this. It's you run around, you kill the Bikers, you go to kill the Legionnaires, the Cultists, kill the Rhinos. You kind of semi-ignore Abaddon and the Terminators, trade out with the Chosen, Flash gets some people up off this table best you can, and then you end up hopefully pulling out the game by that. I've ran away from those guys and just let them just put Bikers right in front of them. So it was weird that he got a low score, but that's one of those things you have to be careful, because Abaddon and those Terminators can run downhill through Orks in the right circumstances. So then his 5th matchup, this is actually where he lost, and this is something else that we know is most likely a difficult matchup for Orks. If you're both equal skill players, keep that in mind. His Drakari, right? because they have a new detachment, we're not super aware of all their rules. Like I said before, if you're not aware of rules, you can be caught off guard from that sometimes. Do I think we can beat this? Of course we can. We can beat anything. We're a very effective army and a very effective faction. Yet, we're a very straightforward faction, meaning you have to understand the army's rule, the enemy's army's rule too. Otherwise, your direct course of action might not work. And in this case, might not have worked because these guys have a lot of shenanigans. So we have the Archon. They actually have all the enhancements. I don't remember exact names, but one enhancement doesn't allow you to get Overwatch. One enhancement allows you to what was the other one? Sorry. I have to go over these again to remember them off the top of my head, but the most important one is they can essentially move, disembark, not be Overwatch, and then crump you. So that's important, and I'll look over what the other ones do because they just went off the top of my head. And then he brought Lilith Haskell-Brash. Then we have Cabalite Warriors, Witches, and then the Raider with so many Dark Lances. So Orks as a whole, one, we don't want to see you with a bunch of anti-transports lined up against our transports. You're going to line up, pop our trucks for a very effective trade. I mean, our trucks went up in points a little bit. For 15 more points, you get an anti-tank weapon. Interesting, right? They can pop us, disembark us, counter charges, very effective anti-infantry weapons. Very good scoring potential, putting their OC where they want it to be. I believe it's a strat where they kill you. Once they kill you, get the move, or that might be actually one of the enhancements. I forgot. They get additional AP on the charge. They get Lance, so even our toughness doesn't really come into play. They get a good volume of punches. We have the Incubi unit. Incubi, when they actually get these new enhancements, are reliably killing you with good volume of punches, and they're really not that expensive. 150 points, for 10. We have Mandrakes. This is their scoring potential unit. Very effective for scoring. It can scout and infiltrate, I think. Ravengers, no more Dark Lances. Ravengers, they're oddly just durable, standing in the way, holding up their backfield. You can't really trade them out too easily sometimes. And then Scourges, again, with more Dark Lances. These are just flying jetpack Dark Lance guys. And not to mention, Drakari has what are they called? They have those grenades, right? So they have those. I'm having a brain fart. Splinter bombs or something like that. I don't think they're on this. Are they on this list? But they also have access to that too. So even if they don't have a bunch of Dark Lances, they'll run into you and start throwing these bombs into you. So Drakari is insanely effective, very cheap, a lot of transports. The transports, we don't have anything to really shoot them effectively and get the initiative. So these guys are moving fast, and then they have enough OC that if they have to, they'll just stand on objectives and hopefully beat you out on OC. And I'm not throwing it away to say that it was a hard matchup because he put up 98 points into our James's 56. So very hard. And of course, the mission comes into play there. But this happens when you come into something you haven't faced before and you're actually seeing it on the table. You're like, whoa, what are you doing? Where are you? Oh, you're everywhere. Oh, okay. Yeah, sure. I guess that's a thing. Yeah, sure. So that's funny. Now we have Tyranids. So Tyranids is a faction that I say that like I said, you guys are both skilled, and you're not used to them. It could be a hard matchup for Orks. They have oddly good profiles into us, and now they're cheap enough that they're trading with weird monsters that we don't like to see. So it says 1K Nids, you're weird. But it is Nexus. So Nexus can be hard for us because reduce AP. Oddly effective on Orks, if they have the right unit. So let's see what he brought. He has a Death Leaper, Neuro Tyrant, and then a Winged Hive Tyrant. Okay. Then we have a unit of Gargoyles. More Gargoyles would be better for him against us. Gargoyles, one of those units, just pick them up off the table best you can. They get in your way, move shenanigans, flash kid them, while you're in the vehicle, stuff like that. Or Stormboy them up, right? Run more Stormboys into them, beat the crap out of them, if you have enough Stormboys on your list. Then we have Biovores for that free scoring. Only one Exocrine, Neurogaunts, Neurolictor, Norn Emissary. So that's effective for a Nexus detachment going into Orks. 2 Ripper Swarms, and then here 2 Screamer Killers. I spoke about Screamer Killer earlier. 145 points. Tyrannid players are going to try to see if they fit on their list. So expect to see a few in their newer models. And 145 is just enough where you're like, I could probably fit on the list and be a distraction card effects. And then we have a Tyrannofax with the Exos. With the acid spray, a very thick, imagine how Orks we interpret a battle wagon is not that expensive for its defensive chassis. That's essentially what a Tannerfax is, but it has a flamer for its acid. So very big, thick boy, a lot of wounds. This list isn't exactly most meta. You can see that he's trying to figure out exactly what he wants to do. He didn't invest necessarily into Vanguard to take advantage of the Neurolictors. Hypothetically, he did bring a Winged Hive Tyrant, so This is a folding, unfolding kind of list. James did handle it, 98-point win. And then last but certainly not least was going into Skitarii. So it says how much does one person hate themselves? Enough to buy AdMech. I don't know. I'm just kidding. AdMech is very cool when you look at it. It's just very, in question right now. So everybody has a different opinion. I'm not going to pretend to know enough about them. I know Skitarii Vanguard, if you have a lot of bodies and battle line, you're doing decent. If you know chickens, you're doing decent. He brought max amount of battle line units. He brought, well, not the max line, but he brought Vanguard 6 units. He brought Iron Striders, some Stalkers, some more Stalkers, Sterilizers, Raiders, Infiltrators. So he did bring a good amount of activations. I just think Orks have, even when you're diminished, your unit shot up and all messed up, 3-4 Orks, one, with one knob in there, still crump the heck out of a bunch of Skitarii units. It's like playing against Guard, but they have less effective durability and less amount of firepower, so we just kind of run them over. So great job by James for that. Love to see it. Great job by the War Bosses this weekend for what you guys are doing. So let's do a quick recap about my, thoughts about this, your thoughts about this, as I'm looking at the chat right now. So if you got to say it now. Actually, look at this right now. Does killing Mozrog get you assassinate and bring it down points, or do you have to choose? Cena played both ways. You get both. You play both every time, just so you know, right? So be aware when you're putting them on the list, you're giving up both. Now, there's a few things that were on the table since the Dataslate people were questioning. Where are Orks and Aline? I still think running trucks is actually a bit more in your favor. A lot of armies do have the capacity to kill wagons and kill rigs and everything like that. Yet, I personally am loving running 20-man units of Beast Snaggle Boys to run over Catans, to run over Custodes. But I'm also enjoying running 2 10-man units of Knobs. Still running 1 Squig Hogboy Brick with trucks. So any of those archetypes that you're running, 5-man units of Knobs, Scalpel Knobs, keep using those, keep figuring them out. I'm trying to figure out if I want to infiltrate, if I want more movement shenanigans with the Weird Boy or a Shock Jump Dragsta, Death Killer War Trike, so I can get up the field faster. These are all things we have to take into consideration because the best armies are going to have infiltrate, and our hard matchups are still considered our hard matchups. Guard, Custodes, Death Guard, Tyranids were some of our hardest matchups, and now we have Chaos Knights, and now we have Dark Eldar slipping in to possibly, I don't know if it is, but while you don't know all the rules, they're going to be a hard matchup, right? But these are our 5 hardest matchups, so learn them, just be aware of them. We can still beat them, know what tools you need, what tools you don't want them to see, what you don't want to see on their list, and if you do see them, have a counter to them, right? So Orks are still in a great place. We'll say, just for the argument's sake, top 5 army, at least in my opinion. So start to learn the enemy's rules. We still have the same predators for the most part that we had before, besides CSM and Eldar, but Eldar could still be difficult matchups in Coca CSM, so keep an eye out for them, but we already know their rules, so we'll just have to see what their new archetypes look like fire dragons, a bunch of small transports and multiple activations, stuff like that. Hey everyone, I need some opinion. I just got into 40k and I've bought an Ork Combat Patrol and a set of killer cans. What else should I buy and expand off them? Join the Discord and talk it out. There's a bunch of different ways you can go with it, but my opinion is always to go with what you think is the most interesting, regardless of what the meta is, because by the time you put it together, by the time you paint it, by the time you understand 40k, the meta might have just changed into what you own. So don't be discouraged and go like, this is the best, this is that. Go for what you like, learn how to enjoy the hobby, learn how to enjoy your models, and then slowly move into that, right? Because that'll be the best return on investment for your money, your time, and your love for the hobby. What is your thoughts about how to handle a Mordian Glory style guard list? Yeah, Mordian Glory himself says that he doesn't have too much fear for the Orks right now. He thinks that he contains them, all the potential that he can have with all the tools that he have. He thinks we run out of steam. He thinks that he can put enough bodies between his reactivations to slow us down. He thinks that we're also quite predictable with how Ork players tend to wall on turn 2. And he's right. So what I want to say there is how you start handling that is how us Ork players need to understand how all of our hard matchups are starting to look. They're either going to keep indirecting us, which is still annoying. Let's say they have the Terminator, the Death Guard, indirect fire tanks. Let's say they have Astra Militarum, indirect fire. That's an issue. But what we need to understand is putting them on the back foot is always the right answer to how to deal with guard. Now, how do we do that? Could commandos be an answer? Not sure. Guard doesn't necessarily shoot them too well yet. Mordian Glory is looking to start the game already and jump into them and maybe charge them. It's about clearing those guard units quick enough, scoring the space fast enough, holding that mid-table, and still going out and touching guards. So I have some ideas there, but Death Killer Wartrike looks kind of interesting there. Coming with more of these cheap units that can start earlier on the board and stop the reserves from coming in. Let's say Shock Jump Dragsters. Let's say an odd Weird Boy, Storm Boys, Bikers, Death Killer Wartrike, stuff like that, where you're going to say, hey, I'm going to take up your reserve space, and I'm going to have small kind of skirmishing units that aren't too expensive to run out and charge into your, let's say, your battle line units that he thinks he's going to just leave there is going to be interesting. But they're very hard. And when it comes to these two matchups, and they have all the tools to beat us, and they know exactly what we're doing, like Morty and Glory knows exactly how to play against Orks, you're at a disadvantage, then you're going to need the mission to also help you as well. So I need more tests into guard, which I'm going to get, but we know their weakness. They want to be on the back foot. It's up to you to add those tools into your list, place them correctly, and be able to sustain that pressure on them without running out of momentum, because that's what he doesn't care about. That's what they do care about, but they're worried that we don't have enough of anymore. So, and maybe when we get a codex, that'll give us direct, real answers. So, great question. So, my boys, Orks are doing great. I'm still into trucks, still into knobs. Our archetypes are looking very similar, yet they might have to change based off our hardest matchups. But keep in mind, it's still the rise of the green tide. So just remember, we do these every Wednesday, and every Friday we'll do, we do either information videos or tactic videos, or sometimes just do straight up hobby streams, show off hobby Discord community stuff. So be around for all that. Like and subscribe if we do a good job, and if you want to be a part of the rise of our great wall, right? So there's one thing to keep in mind is don't cross our wall, because we knock your teeth out. Whoa!